Oh, I just noticed that I have just turned on my microphone. I forgot to do it earlier. There is nothing a machete cannot help with in the kitchen. Hello. Hi. So, first, I'll be doing some similar to a bolognese sauce, which is basically my version, at least, is a bunch of onion, garlic, and ground beef, all of it under low fire with some olive oil. This is the very first part. I'll then divide it in half so that one part can be on top of the pizza as if it were a topping made of just beef, ground beef, with some seasoning, including some basil, onions, and garlic. And afterwards, the other half, I'll use it to make it into sauce. Okay, here's the first part. Then this is some confit garlic. It is flavorful. It has been first some oil is quickly heated, not that hot, usually at around 80 degrees Celsius. And once it is hot, you add some garlic into it so that it can then be cooked. The point of that is for the oil to permeate into the garlic and then to release all the flavor. And once that has been done, you leave it there for 1 to 2 hours and it will release a ton of flavor. Now I need a spatula. But important, in this case, it's better to add all the garlic into the oil once it is full, and afterwards you chop it. Otherwise, it can be cooked not that well, or some parts may even get roasted within the oil, so it's better not to do it. This will add a ton of flavor, and we will let it rest here on top of the fire in a low setting, so that we can enjoy some clear onions. Now, I want you to see the following. This is going to turn into pizza. I've been leaving these to ferment for a while. Right now, it's been like 9 hours, and it is fluffy and full of air. Look at it! But let's allow it to rest a few more hours so it is ready for tomorrow. Now, yes. This is an iron cast saucepan, and it is great because it helps a lot with the heat so that it distributes evenly, and the stuff at the bottom gets cooked. But this is especially important. Do not use high heat with this sort of pan, otherwise everything you put there is going to be charred, and even worse, it will stick to the bottom. So it's not a good idea. Now, while that cooks, I purchased this. It is 400 grams of Angus choice beef. It is a good beef. I preferred for this recipe one that doesn't have a high percentage of fat. So this is a 90-10. Here it is now. And once the onions are ready, you know they are ready once they turned a little bit crystalline. Yes, it's looking good, but the smell is not yet where I need it to be. So I'll cover it. I'll begin by seasoning this by adding some basil to the meat. I know this is not a traditional recipe. I do not intend it to be, but I like how flavorful it is. And I'll set this aside, and I'll just finish chopping my last half onion. I actually used the other half of this onion on my previous stream, in the one in which I made a quiche or quiche. I still don't know how to properly pronounce it. Now, I'll just chop it. Nothing a machete cannot save. And as you can see, I am not a professional chef, just based on the fact that I don't know how to properly use my fingers to cut. So be very careful whenever you're doing this. I may love my machete, but it's dangerous. Good enough. And now it's time to dice and chop. It's always relaxing to do this part. Remember to always move your fingers on the opposite side of the edge so that you don't risk getting a slice of your own finger. That sounds like a terrible topping for any pizza. There it is. The onions here are almost ready. Nice, the smell has changed in the last 3 minutes. Very good. I don't like wasting food. That's why I always try to pick every single ingredient that falls off the table. I'll just need to let it rest for a moment, and I'll check. Oh, ew! What did you dislike? I don't know. Well, let's continue. As 2/3 of the onions are already clear and ready. And the garlic is already cooked. I'll begin by adding my meat. Not in that sense of the word. Now let's start by splitting it. It already smells nice. Garlic has started to release some of its essences. And the meat has some basil here. So it's already smelling quite nice. I'll just keep splitting it. One important thing and why I am splitting it so thoroughly is that if you just drop the entire ground beef as it was, it will cook unevenly due to how thick it is. The thick meat. I should stop reading things online. Now, once you have split it, you can just move it so that all the flavors from the onions and garlic are integrated into the meat, like this. And don't worry, I'll be adding some liquid afterwards. So right now it doesn't matter too much that it is not perfectly done. Okay. I'll just cover the entire pan. And add a little bit more basil. Oh, I ran out of basil. But don't worry, I have another. This part to the trash. There it is. Oh, it is not as finely chopped as I want. This is not pure basil. This is just the regular Italian herb mix, which contains some basil, but at the same time it includes bay leaf and other ones. That's why I don't like this as much as just pure basil, but I ran out of it and I accidentally purchased this instead. So I'll just be using a little bit here. There it is. I'll mix it. Once we start adding all the liquids, the flavor will mix and it's going to be great. Right now I am adding it at this point because the meat is going to release a ton of liquids that will help convey the flavor to the rest of the ingredients. So it's better to add them sooner rather than later. Not all spices have to be added at the beginning, as some of them dissolve in fat or in water. So the perfect point depends on which recipe you are making and what kind of spice you are adding. Now I'll cover it for a moment and I'll get ready the next part. For this part, I'm going to need, I usually buy just traditional pizza sauce. Hi, yes, también hablo español. Es mi idioma natal. But I'm trying to speak English just to practice myself. So I'm not just streaming in English to get a different audience, but I want to practice myself. Because as you can notice, my accent is not the best. But well, I usually use this sauce. It is really good. It's really nice. You can actually use it as it is. But I personally just add this just as another ingredient because I prefer to add extra meat, onions, and the best part of this recipe that I really like is adding chocolate, but not just any chocolate. It's basically raw. Before it has any extra vegetable fat, or what was the name of that? It doesn't have cinnamon. It doesn't have extra sugar. So it's basically just pure chocolate. En este caso estoy haciendo una receta para pizza que contiene chocolate y de hecho la puedes hacer también agregándole frijoles. Yeah, don't worry. So, now that I am just waiting here for this to cook, I'll be preparing the rest of the ingredients. Now I'll start to put everything else on its original place so that I don't have things that may confuse me. Next, this is going to the trash. There it is. Now, I'll take advantage. This is the olive oil I use. Basically, the brand is not that important. As long as it is of good quality, it should work. So you don't have to buy the products that I'm showing. I wish I were sponsored. Now I need more lighting. Yeah, it has improved. Now, let's continue. I'll move the basis for my sauce. Look, and it is still pinkish. So that means that I still have to move it a lot so that we can get a uniform brown color. If I'm not mistaken, that's Maillard chemistry reaction, the one that changes it to brown, but I could be mistaken. Or does that only apply to bread? This is not yet ready to be mixed with the rest of the sauce. And for those who were not here, I'd like to show you this. Here's my handmade dough. It looks great, look at it. It's fluffy, it is moving, and it's going to turn into 2 medium-sized pizzas or 1 huge pizza. It's going to be great. This has been resting for about 9 hours. Yes. Whew, that's ready. Yes, and now I need this and this. Here is some black pepper and some garlic with some salt. Oh yeah. And here it is. This is a bouillon of tomatoes. And it is important because as I will be diluting this sauce, the flavor may be a little bit lost. So that's why I'm trying to use additional flavoring. Now I'll take this to the trash. Okay, there it is. Oh yeah, I will be saving half of this meat so that I can use it for the topping. So, I'll be saving it in here. There we go. Oh, look at all these juices. This is where the flavor is. I didn't add that many oil, even though it is important, because I don't want the texture to be screwed if I add too much. I prefer a more lean experience. And it is looking great. Look at these onions, they are already clear. That's when they are in the best state. There they go. And I'll go get the chocolate. Here is the chocolate. I usually cook a lot more for this recipe. So this time I'm using half the amount that I would usually use. Unfortunately, this is going to be a pizza for basically myself. Everyone else canceled for the meeting, but this is a good excuse to cook and continue practicing. So It is important to break the chocolate. As you can see, this is basically pure chocolate. It contains very little sugar. It doesn't have added sugar. It doesn't have extra vegetable oils. It's just basically pure chocolate. It doesn't have cinnamon either. But as it is really easy for this to melt, it won't melt like usual chocolate for bakeries. It is going to basically disintegrate and release the flavor. So for this, I prefer to break it down so that it is easier for it to better move within the dish. Now I'll begin cutting it. Also, if I add too much strength, you will see it flying to the other side. So that's why I'm doing this manner. Here we go. Now the other side. And when in doubt, use a machete. Great. The smaller the pieces become, the easier they are to break apart. Yes. Look at how it breaks, it crumbles. You know chocolate is best when it is like this, at least for cooking, because that means that it doesn't have enough oil that binds it together. Okay, meat is ready. Yes, it's well cooked. I'd rather not have my meat mooing when I'm going to eat it. Yes. Good enough. I'll be taking half of the meat for later use as a topping for my pizza. Hot. And just a little bit more. There it is. I'll spread it evenly throughout the saucepan. Great. And this is going to go to the fridge in a few minutes. Now, I'll begin first by adding the chocolate. Yes. The first time I did this sauce, I added a little bit of extra beans just to increase the amount of umami. And it actually was very nice, but the flavor didn't change as much. So that's why I liked it. Look at how it easily starts to melt. A good chocolate should melt at around 34 degrees Celsius because different vegetable oils, I don't have anything against them, but once they are using chocolate, you can see how much they have been added due to the increased melting point of chocolate. Usually, a single bar of milk chocolate melts at around 36 to 38 degrees, while pure chocolate melts at 34. Now that the chocolate is here, the umami will be increased, and the richness of the flavor is going to increase, which is the part that I really want to have. Okay, that's enough mixing. Now, let's shake this. I'm shaking it because usually on the cover, a ton of sauce sticks there and then it dries. So it's good to rehydrate it by mixing it well. Otherwise, it gets difficult to then scrap it off the metallic cover. There it is. You know that it works because of the sound it makes. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can hear the bubbles heating. And I managed to clean most of it. No problem. I'm getting this here. It's great. I love this. And now, to avoid wasting all what's left inside, I'll be adding some water. Around half of the recipient, so that the entire sauce is not too thin or undiluted. There you go. That's it. Finally, let's set this aside. I'll open the bouillon, chop it so that it doesn't stay together there. I love to chop everything, in case you haven't noticed, so that this sauce is actually an umami bomb. I love umami. And increasing its size and flavor is always desirable in my kitchen. There it is. There it is now. I'll start mixing this. Actually, the smell is powerful. And now, I just have to let it consume for about 10 to 15 minutes so that some of the water content evaporates and the flavors are concentrated. If I took this right now, it would taste fine, but it wouldn't be great. We want to reduce the amount of water the dish itself has. And to spread evenly all the flavors from the meat, chocolate, garlic, and onion. Now, I'll add just a little bit of pepper. And a little bit more of salted garlic powder. There it is. This is, of course, not traditional. I know an Italian streamer who would probably not like this. But this is my personal recipe, and I'm sharing it with whoever wants to learn from it. And I hope you like it if you ever replicate it. Now, I've been cooking with fire at the lowest setting, so I'll increase it just a bit so that it can be consumed properly. And it works. Now I hope I don't... Yeah, it's manageable. I'll send it to the fridge. And I'll start packing everything up. Because a clean kitchen is always nice. It can actually stop accidents from happening. My oil, I use this to season my pan. In here I only have different oils, and then I can use this in the grill to start the fire once it has been done, so this is great. And there it is, saved. My onion container. And this is in the organics. There it is. So basically, that's my recipe. I hope you one day try it as well. I think that's all for today. See you later. Bye bye.